The Human Optimization Podcast is proudly brought to you by Vicon Supplements, where quality meets sustainability. Vicon's all-natural supplements are handcrafted and sustainably produced in Canada, bringing you products that nourish both your well-being and our planet. Visit viconsupplements.com today and be a part of a greener, healthier future.
Are you ready to embark on a journey to the best version of you? Join me, Lisa Pitel-Killah, as I dive deep into the world of hair tissue mineral analysis and functional medicine with fellow experts, and guide you on the path of unlocking your full potential. As a multi-time kettlebell sport world champion, I'm on a mission to reach high-performance professionals from around the world to help you minimize tiring symptoms, maximize health, and gain unstoppable energy. This is the Human Optimization Podcast. Well, welcome to the show, Leon. I'm so excited about today's conversation because we're always here to talk about optimizing our human, right? And one of the amazing ways to do that is with enzymes. And you are an enzyme expert.
Well, thank you. That's flattering.
Well, I'm excited to talk about enzymes because, I think that we could probably say that most individuals, adults, probably have a bit of a decreased capacity to digest and absorb nutrients from food, whether it's supplements, right? Because of stress and all the inflammation and everything that's happening in the body, right? And so before we dive into that, so you can really take us down some rabbit holes, I want people to know a little bit about your background because, my gosh, you've been in business for so long and doing enzyme research for so long. Tell us, how you started and how you got here.
Okay. So it was probably close to over 30 years ago that I was helping run a health and fitness clinic where we help people lose weight, gain weight, and we were into strength training to do that. Back in the 90s. And I was having my own health issues at that time. For some reason, well, not for some reason. We had issues with in the family. My grandmother had colon issues. My father had colon issues. And then at an earlier age in my 20s, I was developing colon issues. And I was a power lifter. I was a personal trainer. And those issues were taking me away from my business. I'd have to spend time, tending to those kind of issues. And so that's when I was introduced to digestive enzymes. And at that time, we were actually using a microscope to draw blood and then look at the microscope or put it under the microscope, look at the blood, take the enzymes and then draw more blood in about 20 to 30 minutes and see what kind of a difference that would make.
Oh.
And so we were able to look at our own blood and we would check our blood before we ate, after we ate, before we worked out, after we worked out, and we were able to see, what foods did to our blood, what workouts did to our blood, and then we started incorporating enzymes. And from there, we started developing enzyme formulas to alter the way our bodies responded.
Wow.
But that was, like I said, over 30 years ago, and that's what really got me into the enzyme industry. And funny thing is there was a company called National Enzyme Company. They were the premier enzyme company back then. And no one knew how to formulate enzymes because they're not just formulated by milligrams, they're formulated by activity units.
Yep.
And so no one had anywhere to go to get a formulator to formulate their products. And so we jumped in with both feet. I say I had a couple business partners at the time, and we worked with the biochemist from National Enzyme Company and learned how to formulate. And so we really did this just hands-on, and then a lot of years of being in the industry. So it's all personal experience and trial and error and working. And then also putting all this information under a microscope and literally and looking at it and seeing what the results would produce.
Yeah.
So at that time, was able to get over all my health issues, and then
Wow.
uh, my big interest was in recuperation at the time
Hmm.
because I was an athlete, powerlifting. Our workouts were grueling. They were 4-hour workouts, and then to recover from something like that, it takes a while. We couldn't just wake up the next morning, we were recovered. We had to eat
Yeah.
right. You had to take certain supplements, and the easy thing to do was do steroids, and
Hmm.
we could have rebounded really quickly. Um, but that wasn't an option.
Yeah.
So enzymes is what we turn to, and we can get into that unless you want to hear more about my background. Um,
Yeah, no, I mean, I am interested in hearing all about enzymes and recovery
okay.
because hitting the gym is one of my favorite things to do.
All right, well, let's start there because that's
Yeah.
where I started, was in the gym.
Yep.
And so we were lifting weights, and when you lift weights or do any type of workout, you're creating small micro tears in the muscle, and your muscle's made of protein. And so we were looking at faster ways to recuperate. And
Hmm.
so through our studies, through other doctors that have done studies on enzymes, we found that proteolytic or protease enzymes that digest protein help with recuperation. In fact, they can speed your recuperation up to half. Like if it's going to take you 4 days to recuperate, you can get it done in 2 with
Wow.
proteolytic enzymes.
Hmm.
So that was of huge interest to us in recuperation, just for being an athlete. Now, the type of health and fitness clinic that we were in, we dealt with a lot of injuries, sports injuries, but then also adults that had knee injuries, hip injuries, and they were also wanting to recover and recuperate from operations or these type of injuries. And so we started working with proteolytic enzymes and helping in those areas. And some pretty amazing things would happen. One in particular, had a gentleman come in from California. He actually came in on crutches, and he was
Wow.
suffering from gout.
Yep.
Yeah, but he was on crutches. It was on a Friday afternoon. I remember this, and he we did his blood work. We looked at it, and then we came up with an enzyme protocol that would have him taking enzymes with his meals and then enzymes in between meals.
Hmm.
And I, so this was on a Friday. On Monday morning, he called me and said, "Hey, Leon, I got to tell you, I just golfed nine rounds of golf, 9 holes of golf." And he goes, "I walked the whole way."
Wow.
And so going from crutches to, walking, the whole way in just 3 days, that's pretty amazing. And that's another thing that really gets me going about enzymes is I'm a very impatient person. And enzymes work right now,
Yep.
and they're not a supplement that you have to take for 3 months to see if it's going to alter something. There's things that you can do. You can take a bowl of oatmeal and uh, put an enzyme on it and stir it up, and you'll watch it start to dissolve that oatmeal immediately within 30 seconds. So you can see how fast this stuff works.
Yeah.
So,
Wow.
um, and that was another reason that really got me into enzymes is how fast they work.
Hmm.
So with injuries and recovery and that kind of thing. So, um, yeah, that's how we got into it, and that's where my focus was. And then from there, it went into dealing with people that had major health issues,
Yep.
and then working with this microscope, I was able to see what alters the blood very quickly. And I found that 3 things alter the blood very quickly, and that's enzymes, uh, oxygen, and certain minerals.
Hmm.
So, um, so oxygen can. Wow, the very first time I saw this, I watched a doctor, and I don't recommend anybody do this, but something I would do. I watched a doctor take a syringe full of ozone and inject it into a patient's arm,
Right.
and
Yeah.
very slowly, and we did the blood work before, and then we did blood work after. So before the injection, looked at the blood, you could see yeast and fungal forms and a lot of debris in the blood. And then after the injection and waiting about 10 to 15 minutes, we drew some more blood, and it was clean. It was the cleanest
Wow.
I've ever seen. I was blown away at how fast ozone or oxygen works inside the body.
Hmm.
Um, so from that, and then minerals, certain type of minerals, well, they hold a charge, a positive or negative charge, and as you take that, it can cause from the blood that's clumping together, it can cause them to separate, so that they're floating freely, just because the charge has changed. So, um, so what we did over the years was develop enzyme products that contained digestive enzymes plus certain minerals that are known to alter the blood or cause a reaction. And
Hmm.
then what we found were the enzyme products that worked faster and better than most that are out on the market.
Yeah.
So
Amazing. Well,
yeah,
and ozone is such an interesting application
yeah,
because I mean, it can help the body with so many different things. And you were obviously talking about the clean blood, but I mean, I used ozone when I had mold illness.
right,
And you know, it's funny too because I'll share a little story. When I was pretty much half my age, I was around 25 or 26 at the time, and there was a tanning studio, and I had met this woman. She ended up being my mentor for quite a long period of time. She did a lot of meditation, and she was kind of a natural healer.
mhm,
And she actually had a tanning studio, and at every tanning bed, she had oxygen to breathe in. So you actually bought your own little nose piece, right? Just like
yeah,
you'd see at the hospital. And you'd go in for your 10 minutes of sunshine or whatever, and you'd put your oxygen on. And oh my gosh, you would leave there feeling amazing. But the
right,
one thing she did have, and I wasn't in a place in my life to really appreciate it like I would now, just with everything that I understand and know, and it was actually an O3 sauna. So it was an
really,
ozone sauna. And you would get into this capsule that would kind of close around your neck, and they would put this big towel, right? Because you can't breathe
yeah,
it in, put this big
right,
towel around your neck to keep it in. And then you'd put your O2 on, right? And you'd breathe that in while you're in there. It was so hot, you could barely make it the 20 minutes, right? But you got out of there, and the towel you were sitting on, probably 9.5 times out of 10, had black spots all over it. And I'm like, oh my gosh, that just came out of my body. Right? I'm like, no wonder I feel better after this, right?
right,
Yeah,
right,
I think about that now. The power of that is incredible. So I
yeah,
totally appreciate how it can have an effect, you know, when mixed with enzymes and other minerals and things
right,
like that too on the body, for sure.
yeah, yeah.
Wow.
So yeah, I had experiences similar to what you're talking about. We'd put together a protocol of enzymes,
Hmm.
ozonated enemas,
Yep.
and a lot of good nutrition, blue green algae and minerals,
Yep.
but extensive amount of enzymes. And over the years, we've been able to formulate stronger and stronger enzymes so that you don't have to take quite as many.
Yep.
Uh, but the enzymes were used to help reduce the inflammation and remove all the debris that the ozone is sloughing off. So
Yeah.
uh, great combinations to improve health. Yeah,
Absolutely. And you were talking earlier about ozonated magnesium for
yeah,
biofilms, right?
right,
That's an interesting combo too, especially for biofilms, because like, can you share a little? I mean, you know, a lot of my listeners are health practitioners and what have you,
right,
but some people don't know what's a biofilm. Like, what does that
right.
mean, right?
Yeah. So biofilm is it's a barrier that's created by bacteria and virus, mostly by bacteria, but they'll create a barrier and then hide behind it. So, like on the intestinal wall, it'll create a barrier of proteins and polysaccharides, and it becomes a very hardened, encapsulated thing. But bacteria can get underneath it and
Hmm.
hide from antibiotics, hide from the immune system, and then they continue to just reproduce and cause their problems. So biofilm has been an issue for a lot of years, and that's the reason that things keep reoccurring or keep coming back
Hmm.
is because the body can't ever really get rid of the yeast or the virus or the bacteria that you're trying to get rid of. So what we found is that enzymes actually work better than anything so far in the world as far as breaking apart biofilm. Because you just look at the structure and what it's made up of, proteins and polysaccharides. So you
Yep.
get certain proteases and then certain type of carbohydrates or enzymes that digest carbohydrates,
Hmm.
um, especially the fiber type of enzymes. And it'll break apart the polysaccharides and the protein. And once that's dissolved, the virus, the bacteria, it's exposed. And then the ozonated magnesium and magnesium peroxides, those kinds
Hmm.
of things,
Hmm.
will kill the virus and bacteria. So what we've done is we've created a formula that will it has an ozonated magnesium and a blend of certain enzymes, proteolytic enzymes and carbohydrates that will break apart biofilm. So
Amazing.
it's kind of like a 1-2 punch. You take it, biofilm starts to dissolve, and then the oxygen's there to kill the offensive virus or bacteria.
Yeah.
So,
Amazing. Wow.
uh, one of the reasons that I want to kind of explain why or how we ended up with an ozonated magnesium
Hmm.
and because back in the 90s we taught ozonated enemas,
Yep.
where you take a 5-gallon bucket and ozonate 5 gallons of water and then run that as an enema,
Hmm.
and you'd be on a toilet for over an hour. And we were working with cancer patients, you name it. I
Hmm.
mean, major issues and problems, degenerative diseases, autoimmune diseases, those kinds of things. And we're using ozonated enemas with enzyme supplements, um, and people had to be in pretty dire straits to want to do that,
Hmm.
and over the years we're able to develop a product that it's an ozonated magnesium, and we've tried a lot of different formulas, and you kind of end up with a magnesium peroxide is what
Mm.
a
Okay.
stable
Hmm.
magnesium peroxide is what you end up with, that once you take it into the body, the peroxide is released through the digestive tract, which can then kill bacteria, virus, yeast, fungus, that kind of thing. But we've combined it with the enzymes so that it's very easy to take. It's all in one capsule. You take that, biofilm gets dissolved, bacteria gets destroyed,
Yeah.
and it works really
Amazing.
great.
That's
It,
amazing.
and
Wow.
it's an easier sell than a ozone
Then it,
machine, enema board, and
right. Yeah. A
yeah,
little easier to handle that, to do the
yeah,
protocol for sure. Yeah. And it's funny too, I feel like nowadays so many people don't, I guess there's a couple things, is that
okay,
they don't realize how much stress causes their body to be aging faster, right? And
mhm,
as we age, we know things don't get produced the same and what have you. And the other one is too is that our just even our GI health, right? The foods that we're eating, with sugar and processed, and right, if our diet isn't really dialed in, and sometimes even if it is, that again, the microbiome can be upset, and like you said, biofilms and then bacteria, and now we have chronic issues that people can't get rid of, and they're struggling with that. And
right,
even when it comes to, I love minerals, right? When we see so many people that have more on the side of like a slow metabolic type, so just means their body really isn't operating at optimal capacity, that also impedes digestion,
yeah,
right? Which is so important. And so let's talk a little bit about just supporting digestion. I mean, I think a lot of people hear about HCl, right?
right.
A lot of people hear about digestive enzymes. A lot of people have questions. Well, which one's better? Or when do I use which one? Or what do I do? Give us some thoughts on that.
Okay, so I'll tell you that what I was taught in school and what most people are taught in school is
Mhm.
that HCl aids in digestion, and your hydrochloric acid is what starts the digestive process and does a lot of it. And we used to do a demonstration where we would take pure HCl out of a bottle with the dropper
Mhm.
and drop it onto some food, and it would steam up, or it would have a vapor, and it
Yep.
looked really, really kind of fun, and would stir it up, but it wouldn't do anything.
Mm.
It didn't do anything. And then would take the enzymes and put it on the same food, and it would start to dissolve within seconds. So um, I'm gonna tell you what HCl does in for the digestive tract and in the stomach. So protease, there's an enzyme that the body secretes called pepsin. It's actually starts off as pepsinogen, and that's the inactive form. So it's secreted into the stomach as pepsinogen, and hydrochloric acid is then secreted or made in the stomach so that it brings the acidity down. And once it reaches a certain level, pepsinogen turns into pepsin, or it turns into an activated enzyme, which starts
Mm.
to digest protein.
Yeah.
Now, so the acid level will cause pepsin to start working on proteins, but also hydrochloric acid has another function, and that is to take protein. So let's say this is a protein molecule, and my hand is a protein molecule.
Mhm.
Acid will denature it and cause it to kind of spread or open up.
Mhm.
And once that protein molecule opens up, then it allows for proteolytic enzymes to get in there and digest and break that up. So it aids in denaturing protein and then
Mhm.
also causing pepsin to become active. So for protein digestion,
Yeah.
that's pretty much what
Mm.
HCl does in the stomach. Um, once food goes into the smaller intestine, it becomes more alkaline, and other enzymes become active, and the rest of digestion happens. Now, a lot of issues come up with HCl, stress, the stomach, ulcers, different issues. And
Mhm.
what most people do is they'll start to take antacids. They'll get heartburn, they'll get some burning in the stomach, and my experience, for the most part, is it's not too much acid. It's still not enough.
Yeah.
What's being secreted, and the kind of digestion that's happening, is it's actually causing fermentation, causing gas, and that gas pushes what little acid is in the stomach up higher to where it starts to burn. And so we created a product, HCl and enzymes, that you take that, and it increases the amount of HCl in the stomach, and actually aids in the protein digestion. The burning goes away. Those stomach issues usually go away just by adding more HCl, not reducing it.
Yeah.
And all those antacids, I think it just causes a more of a repeat business. You got to buy more and more to try to reduce something that you're already deficient in.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And share with me if you, and I don't know if you have an opinion on this, but I know this is a question I get a lot from practitioners. And and the question becomes, because they're, when I went to school studying, functional medicine, um, it was really kind of hit home that if somebody has H. pylori, which is a bacteria that's in this kind of seeds in the stomach and kind of thrives in that acidic environment, that HCl is not a good idea because we could, flare that up and make it worse. But now, I would say probably in the last 5 years, there's actually there's both sides of the fence now, where some, alternative therapists and functional medicine practitioners, et cetera, are saying, no, a little bit of HCl when you've got H. pylori is not a bad thing. Do you
Yeah.
have an opinion on that? I'd love to hear it if you do.
Well, I I don't have a strong opinion on that.
Okay.
My opinion would be, the individual needs to try it and see how it works for
Mm,
them.
yeah.
Some people are gonna thrive. Hey, take more HCl and take a lot of it. Some are gonna say, oh no, that didn't work for me.
Yeah.
The other works for me. So it really becomes an individual issue, and I because I've seen both. I've seen both
Mm,
happen, and fortunately, I've never had to experience that. I've been working with enzymes and HCl for so many years that I just haven't had that issue. But
yeah.
so
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
Sorry about that as far as I
No,
have
that's
a
okay.
strong
I always,
opinion.
hey,
Yeah,
it doesn't hurt to ask. I'm like, I wonder what he
right,
thinks about this. I'm
right,
kind of, people always ask, and I'm under the, just the way that I think about things too is we're all bio-individual. So,
right,
and it depends on, maybe they have a low level of H. pylori, maybe they've got a really high level and they're going to react differently,
right,
right? There's a lot of different scenarios that,
yep,
that end up happening too. So, and we're all individual and our bodies are different. So that has to get taken into account as well. And
right.
so, what are some of your favorite enzymes? Just for kind of general use, digestion,
Right.
and what have you.
So my favorite enzymes. Now, for normal digestion, obviously protease, amylase, and
Hmm.
lipase. Protease to digest proteins, amylase to digest carbohydrates, and lipase to digest fats.
Hmm.
Back in the 90s, we had one protease, we had one amylase, and we had one lipase, and so formulas were very simple and very easy.
Yeah.
Um, would throw a little cellulase and for fiber in there, and nowadays there's 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 different types of proteases. There's just as many amylases, and so you can come up with a lot of different types of formulas. Um, so my favorites, protease, amylase, and lipase, and then my all-time favorites are all proteases that deal with
Mm,
proteins. Your
yeah.
body's made of protein. Everything is made of protein. And if you're not digesting protein, your body's not going to recuperate. It just won't happen.
Yeah.
So your immune system uses protease to break. Well, if you look at what your immune system is up against is virus, bacteria,
Hmm.
yeast, and fungus, and they all have a protein shell. They all have a protein casing or of some sort. And so
Yeah.
your white blood cells have protease enzyme to help break that down. And so anything to support the immune system, your proteolytic enzymes, and so those are my hands down my all-time favorite. So as far as like formulations, I'll look for a complete digestive enzyme that has multiple forms of protease, multiple
Hmm.
forms of amylase, multiple forms of lipase, and then a different assortment of fiber breaking enzymes. Um, and I'll take a digestive enzyme formula like that for with all my cooked meals. All your
Mm,
raw, all your raw foods have their own natural enzymes and they digest very easily. You eat a salad and you're hungry within 20 to 30 minutes. It digests very easily because they digest themselves.
yeah.
Once you cook that, it kills all its natural enzymes and then it becomes harder to digest. And your body has to supply all those enzymes. So I take a digestive enzyme with the meals that I eat that are cooked.
Hmm. Makes sense. Makes sense.
And
And
then go ahead.
no, no, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, and then systemic enzyme. You were talking about stress earlier, and what a lot of times goes along with stress is inflammation, and
Yeah.
systemic enzymes are usually enzymes that contain mostly proteolytic enzymes, but they're also known for relieving inflammation. And so taking that in between meals on an empty stomach, so it gets into the bloodstream and becomes systemic, or right before bed, uh,
Hmm.
are my favorite. So
Yeah. That's definitely my favorite. The systemic enzymes, they help with recovery, right? Joint pain.
yes,
I actually have my mother takes them for her hands, right? She's
right,
86 now, and so her joints get a little inflamed and things like that. And as soon as she can definitely feel the difference between taking them and not taking them, and she's
right,
been taking them for a long time. So I'm definitely a big fan of that at bedtime to be able to just help, as we age and things like that, to feel good and not have those aches and pains. Curious too, just with regards to, what the systemic enzymes, I've always used them on an empty stomach just
yeah,
for that purpose,
right.
right? Is there any point to taking those with food at all,
Well,
or not really what they're meant for?
Well, nowadays the systemic enzymes that we use are like nattokinase, serratiopeptidase,
Hmm.
and then different forms of proteases that you would find in a digestive enzyme.
Got it.
Uh, but some of those other enzymes are destroyed by the stomach acid, and
Mm,
so they're put in capsules. A good systemic enzyme will be put in a delayed release capsule or an
mhm.
acid resistant capsule.
Yep,
So if you were to take that with food, it's not going to do anything for that food.
that makes sense. Yes.
Right? It's going
Yes.
to pass into the small intestine where it becomes alkaline, and that's where the capsule dissolves, and then those enzymes are released and become systemic.
Yep.
So taking a systemic enzyme with food, probably not. I mean, they're eventually going to get used by the body, so and may help with digestion through the small intestine.
Hmm.
Uh, so I'm not going to say it's not going to work, but it's probably not going to be its best and highest use.
Makes sense. And
Yeah.
what about ages, right? Age demographics. You know, there are certain things our body declines making as we age,
Right.
right?
Right.
So, share a little on that and your thoughts on that as we
Okay.
age.
So when I say that, all your raw foods have their own enzymes and digest very easily, and how much, just take the average person, how much raw food are they eating every day? Probably
Mm-hmm.
not much. I
Yeah.
mean, I can look at a day or even a week where I'm going, oh my gosh, I haven't had any raw food. It's
Yeah.
all been cooked or processed, so it's
Yeah.
all enzyme deficient.
Mm-hmm.
So if you think about it that way, you're putting a strain on your own digestive system, and they've already done studies that digestive enzymes will decline as you get older. And so, and what's interesting, what I find nowadays is that our kids are being born with food allergies, being
Yep.
born with food sensitivities, and what you're looking at are a lack of certain enzymes. So it's become degenerative or genetic, and we're passing it on to our kids. Our enzyme deficiencies, now our kids are being born with those enzyme deficiencies. So it's not even an age thing anymore. Now it's we're just passing it on
Yeah.
because we continue to eat cooked processed foods. Now, the cool thing about this is you can look at it like a bank account. Um,
Mm.
you can add to your enzyme bank account or you can withdraw from it. And if all you're doing is withdrawing from it, you're gonna run out of enzymes, and you're gonna have more and more food sensitivities as you get older.
Yep.
Um, so at one point I'd say, yeah, it is an age thing, but now it's not. It's everywhere. It's any age. Newborns have food sensitivities now, and that are due to a lack of enzymes. So,
Yeah. And
um,
that's such a true fact because, we see a ton of kids HTMA tests come through and so many of their symptoms, even there was one just a couple days ago and he was covered in a rash, right?
right,
I ate a little bit of banana and his whole body was covered in a rash. And I was like, oh my gosh, so it wasn't even 7 months old.
right,
Right? This is
right,
happening in infants and really small children. So I think we really need to kind of step up and pay attention and think about that, putting the bank deposits back,
right, right,
right?
right,
And make sure that we're again and again, I mean, how do you live optimally and not have optimal digestion? Because you're not going to get the nutrients and the micronutrients broken down from the food that you're eating. So
right,
even I mentioned earlier, even if you're not eating, a standard American diet with all the processed foods and what have you, even if you're eating a really good diet, if you don't have the enzymes on board to digest and
yeah,
break all that down so that your body can actually use it to repair itself, you're not doing yourself any favors,
right,
right?
right,
So super important and such, I just feel like, I even feel like, even for me, it's such a topic that before I was like, oh yeah, but now I'm like, wait, I need my enzymes,
right,
right?
right.
It's true.
Well, I'm going to tell you why I have devoted my life to enzymes, and there are all kinds of vitamins and minerals and
Mhm.
herbs, and they do incredible things. But if you can't digest them and absorb them,
Yep,
they end up in the toilet,
absolutely.
I'm a fan of all health and nutrition. I'm not going to badmouth or um, you know, degrade, someone's profession or their product line or anything like that. But without an enzyme, those products aren't any good. So that's why I, this has kept my focus for over 30 years.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Wow. That's amazing.
yeah.
Amazing. Well, I just want to thank you for taking the time out of your schedule to chat with me today. I always love, kind of diving into things. And I think there was a lot of great information that you shared, obviously, over your more than 3 decades of enzyme research and formulation, which is incredible. And so, for those of you who don't know, you can actually visit enzymeenergy.com, which is Leon's company. I have a few of the products, one sitting here right on my desk. They have a line called Healthy Reflections, which is representing some of the formulations he was mentioning today. So I know you're going to want to check that out. So we're going to have the links in the bio for you to click and visit that website and get your health on track with providing the body with the enzymes that it really needs. So Leon, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Lisa.
All right. For those of you watching on YouTube, make sure you subscribe to my channel. There's a brand new episode every 2 weeks. Give this episode a thumbs up. And for those listening on your favorite podcast host, we thank you for listening, and we will see you next time.
All right.
Thanks for joining us today on the Human Optimization Podcast. Episode technical production is by Grace Sylvester and guest booking by Stu Tate. Want to learn more? Visit Peterson.com for incredible free resources to supercharge your journey to becoming the best version of you. If you enjoyed this podcast, please like and subscribe to the Human Optimization Podcast and follow me on social media at Peterson.